ago, I would have been like, I'll never sign a prenup. It doesn't make any sense. Like, people have talked to me about it before, and I've been very anti, but I feel like it just makes a lot of sense.
Woo. Hey guys, welcome to Little Black Book 91. We're talking to you guys about Love is Blind. We're dealing with Virginia and Devin. I know a lot of people have been talking about this subject, but I think it was actually a really good subject to broach. I know Virginia thought the prenup was a great idea, and I think it was. It's a smart financial move. But Devin's face and body language, his leg was shaking, kind of told us that he wasn't necessarily all the way in. Or rather, I should say, he was anxious about, buying into the idea. Maybe he felt a little bit hurt. Maybe he felt a little bit untrusted. Maybe he felt undervalued a little bit. Maybe he felt like, maybe even disposable a little bit, which is also very fine. Feelings aren't the issue. It is how we're going to discuss it and how we're going to move forward with it. But let's talk a little bit about some of the reasons why Devin may have felt hurt by Virginia's response about having a prenup. And the importance of actually Virginia's point about having a prenup, again, especially when you're on a show and you don't fully know each other that well. I think it was a great conversation to have, and I don't think there was anything negative per se in it. It's all about feelings, and I think we can actually discuss that in a really great way. So if you're new to the channel, to be a massive favor, you're liking, you're sharing, you're subscribing, you're clicking on that bell button for notification of the uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, you already know what it is. Let's get into this video. Don't forget to leave a comment down below in the comment section for us as well. Let us know what your thoughts were. Do you think the prenup is a good idea or a bad idea? Let me know in the comment section. Let's get an intro, and then we're going to start the conversation.
Little Black Book, you know what time it is. 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 Time it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, something we'll talk about and figure out how that looks. I have student loans, not very much.
Alrighty. Well, listen, I definitely feel like when it comes to Love is Blind and when it comes to shows like this, reality TV, prenups are essential. Why? Because you barely know that person. Whilst I don't actually necessarily believe in prenups, my personal self, I wouldn't get one, but I wouldn't be going on a show like Love is Blind, where you're putting yourself in harm's way, you're putting yourself and trusted self in someone else's hands, and you know that they're producers. They're going to do whatever works best for them. So in essence, you can't guarantee that you're making the best sound, discernible choice when you're in that environment. So I totally understand why our good sis is looking to have a prenup. The question is, somebody might ask, would she have a prenup if she knew the man made more? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. Because she never mentioned anything like that beforehand, right? And she has not given us any indication that she is somebody who just wants somebody's money. And I think she made a really good point. Whether the point was actually for him or for her to make it more sense for herself, she said, "Listen, hey, you got a basketball empire. I don't want to take all your money if anything happens or anything like that. If there's a divorce." Now, if you really understand what she was actually saying, she was really talking about herself. Let me tell you why. Because in reality, if there was a divorce and she wasn't about taking somebody's money from the empire, then she wouldn't take any money from the empire. You know what I mean? Because she respects that aspect of you. So, but the reality is, it wasn't about him. It was about her. And in that space, we saw Devin actually kind of look a bit hurt by what was being suggested. And I think this is opening up a really good conversation, because when you get hurt, does that mean negative things? No, it means that you are reacting to what's happening to you and you feel what you feel. And I always encourage people to say, this is where you require RTT, real-time truth. Because the reality is, why are you feeling hurt by this, Devin, if that's what we saw correctly in the screen? And I think the reality is there were a couple of things that he was feeling in that moment. And if he had shared it with her, he could have actually built a better and stronger bond. Now, that takes a lot of vulnerability to do so, because we're exposing ourselves to the other person in a very unique way. What am I talking about? Well, what I really mean is, in that moment, let's say because his leg was shaking, it was actually shaking up and down. Let's say he felt a little bit hurt by it. Let's say that he felt that by her suggesting the prenup, that she's almost suggesting that she's not really fully in the marriage. He could have said, listen, hey, can I be honest with you? By your suggestion of the prenup and the way my brain is thinking, it just sounds a bit like almost like you have one foot in, one foot out. For me, that's how it feels like. But that might not necessarily be the truth. I mean, can you give me some reassurance? Now, see, the confidence in you being able to even say that is what's going to make that confident. We think that by saying that we look weak, but what you're actually able to do is actually an act of strength. By you saying what you actually need, you're letting the person know, I'm able to assertively tell you what I need in a moment, right? I may need some reassurance in that moment, right? or I may need to garnish a bit more understanding where you're coming from. You can say, hey, I did feel a little bit like you were 1 foot in, 1 foot out a little bit by that comment prenup, but that's my perception. What's your perception on this again? Please make me understand. And then the person can explain it, and you can gain reassurance at the end. You can say, oh, do you know what? I understand it now, where you're coming from, and I get it, right? And then you foster this bond. It's real-time truth, RTT. You know more on that. And let's watch a little bit more of the clip, and then we're going to break it all the way down.
Much.
Yeah.
And then I have medical bills from my surgeries.
Yeah.
I'm already like halfway through the payments. So
Yeah, you have like crazy medical bills, and like we find ways to make.
Now, what I loved, and this next part, I want to get to the next part in a second. What I loved in this aspect was this beautiful moment where he says, I have medical bills to the roof, but I'm making my way through it. I'm making half payments. Look, when you take on somebody to marry them, you're going to take on their debt. I just hope you know that, right? You have to get with it. You have to pay the debt. And she actually said, listen, of course, I would love to help, pay it down with you. And I think that changed something in him. If you just watch this, how it changed him. Listen, watch his facial expressions.
Make money, like I wouldn't mind paying off your debt. It just has to like make sense for what we want and how we're trying to pay down stuff and how the team wins.
And that essentially is it, right? And like, I hope he heard what she was actually really saying. And the smile put a little bit forced a little bit. But what she was really saying is that, hey, I'm going to be here to support you, right? And that should really be able to be an ounce of reassurance and some strength that this person's actually in it with you. Because what it can seem is like the person's distancing themselves from you. But the moment she said she's willing to invest and help pay off the debt, whatever helps the team win, should be an assurance for you that actually we're going to go in the right direction and in the same direction as well. We're going to cohabitate our thought processes and our journey together, right? Now, one of the things that can happen is that you can feel like that the person doesn't fully trust you when they ask for a prenup. Let's talk about it. Like, some of the things that are going to happen when someone asks for a prenup is they may not fully trust you. And it may be the case, they don't fully trust you. And maybe they've got an exit strategy. Maybe they're preparing for failure. But it also could be that the person also could be actually as well just saying, hey, I want to protect myself and make sure that we come in with what we leave, which is fair. I get it. Right? Number two, it may be a case of that he has romantic beliefs. Like, I'm a person that believes that if I get married, if you're going to take it all, then you take it all in it. I've married the wrong person. And that's on me. But the source of my income wasn't even me. It was God. So if I can make it once, I can make it twice. Because the source of my strength and my income wasn't me. But it was God who allowed me to get to that place. So for me personally, yeah, I don't want to necessarily a prenup, right? Coming from a Christian perspective. But then again, I'm not on a TV show. And so the prenup introduces legal and financial conditions that both must fulfill, or if they break, there will actually be repercussions. So actually, it's not really a bad thing. It's just that it's making it very clear, the lineage as to what will happen if certain things are broken or certain things don't work anymore, right? But that can make you feel like you don't work on trust and partnership in the relationship, which you may feel like. You may feel like she's not being trustworthy, or that he's not trustworthy. They're not acting in partnership. I get it. This also could be a threat to his masculinity, right? Some people take pride in being a provider. I don't know. I'm not saying that he's not masculine. I'm saying that it didn't sound like he wanted to pay every single bill. It doesn't sound like he had a financial aspect to be able to do that. Most men can't. Let's be real. That's not a shade. That's just keeping it real. So that might not necessarily be something that would affect him per se. But again, once more, it may make him feel that he may be disposable. Right? The prenup being there, it's like, oh, she could dispose of me at any time and go whenever she wants. Right? These are thoughts that can actually be a real thing that you might think. Right? Now, I think she actually delivered the conversation around prenup very succinctly, very well. She never said it in a way like, oh, I'm getting a prenup. She's like, listen, I want to get a prenup because I want to protect your assets, I want to protect my assets. We don't know each other that well as such yet. So let's do what we need to do that's best for us. And I think that was actually a really beautiful way of doing it. Again, if he has issues, he should speak up. He should be like, hey, look, this is how I feel about it, but let me hear your perspective. This is what we call a secure perspective. A secure individual realizes that they have feelings and is able to discuss it without feeling like, oh my God, I'm going to have feelings. Right? Now, someone might have felt some way about it. Let's say you felt a way about this and was like, oh, actually, I don't like the prenup situation. I'm going to tell you, hey, I don't like the prenup situation. Because for me, it feels like there's not really much of a partnership. But what does it mean for you? That's how I feel. But notice I'm not going to put my feelings onto you. I'm not projecting how I feel onto you as a truth. I'm saying to you, hey, the prenup situation makes me feel like there might not be much of a partnership in this situation. I'm going to ask you, how do you feel? Because I want to know, I want to inquire about your mindset first. To be secure in attachment style, you have to get to a place where you're able to inquire before you judge. When you're always judging, you are in your insecure attachment phase. What that really means is John Bowlby, Mary Ainsworth committed studies for young babies and their parent caregiver and the way that they're attached in a relationship. So there's the way that people attach in a relationship. If they attach in the avoidant or the anxious perspective, right, there's certain behavior characteristic traits that go along with it and certain fears that go along with it. Avoidants are afraid of rejection, and then anxious people are afraid of the abandonment. And then you have betrayal for the fear for the avoidance, right? That's the third one. So depending on what your attachment style is, you may have a wound that's attached to that. So let's say he was dismissive, or let's say he was anxious. He might have felt like he's not good enough to get a prenup. He might have felt like, actually, you know what, her getting a prenup means that she doesn't trust me. I got to push her away and self-sabotage, right? He might have felt like, okay, by her getting a prenup, betrayal is about to happen to me. So I'm going to self-sabotage again. I'm going to get you before you get me, right? So those are the thoughts that can actually happen, and you're meant to share those things with another person so that they can actually begin to encourage you. But it's scary to do so because you're already thinking about the consequences of sharing your emotions and your feelings, because in your past, you've been punished for sharing your thoughts and your feelings. Now, is your pain or your feeling justified? Absolutely. It doesn't make it the truth. It makes it your truth. It makes it your world. It makes it your aspect, but doesn't mean the other person has to succumb to that. They can also respond and say, hey, I really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. I now understand more of your perspective, and I can understand where you're coming from. That's them validating how you feel. But they may tell you, but I still want the prenup because for me, this is how I feel. And so now we're feeling seen and feeling heard. It doesn't mean we agree. Okay? And she actually put it across as a mutual protection plan. Okay? Not just I need protection from you. She said we need to protect each other from each other. You might become a basketball empire. Right? Now, I'm sure if he does become a basketball empire, she'll still want some of his finances. Okay? All right? Let's be honest. Okay? Probably will still want his finances. But that's because she probably might have helped build that empire. So, of course, she'll be entitled to it, you know? So, my perspective is this. I think that when you're in these situations, the difficulty of a conversation is that you have feelings and you're not sure whether you're allowed to share those feelings. I want to let you know that you should feel emotionally safe within yourself, that you don't feel scared that when you share your opinion, you're not about to be punished. And if you are about to be punished, that person isn't the right person for you. And actually, you need to learn how to be assertive to let them know that when they're trying to punish you, hey, I feel like what you're doing right now is you're punishing me for sharing my feelings. Right? But it takes a little bit of a while to get to that place. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. Do you agree with the prenup? Do you disagree with the prenup? Do you think that that you can you understand where maybe Devin was coming from? Do you understand where Virginia's coming from? Would you get a prenup if you were in a relationship? Let me know down below in the comment section as well. We appreciate you guys. I hope you guys are enjoying the breakdowns.
Little black book, you know what time it is.